Hello, writing Rabble. It's your Rabble rouser author Chris Everhart back with another session for new writers who want some insight on how to get started and how to tell stories, and even experienced writers who are just looking for different techniques or a new way to look at story. This is the right place for you. Since I'm always forgetting to say it, if you like the video or like the channel, subscribe, like, comment. Always happy to hear from you and see how we can make things better. But in the meantime, I am here with our resident new novelist, Wes Nelson. How's it going, Wes?
It's going, man. It's going slow and steady. How are
Okay.
you?
Oh, good, good. Just doing a lot of writing and planning for the new series. So that is going to be interesting as I keep that going. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun learning how to write the romance books, and I think I think I'm finally in a spot where I can actually uh, really get rolling. So I'm just getting the first book in the romance series restarted because a few weeks ago I figured out that I was halfway through the manuscript as I had outlined it, and it was already over 50,000 words. So
Whoa, is that too
yeah,
long?
yeah. Well, it depends on what kind of book you're writing. I want them to be around 60,000 words each. So
Oh,
I had to go back and just retool everything, strip out a lot of stuff. Like there were like two subplots and stuff. So I just stripped those out and got restarted, and it's going pretty good. So
nice.
all right. How has your writing been in the last 2 weeks or so since we talked?
Very slow.
Okay.
But I, yeah, just slow, and it's been a little bit of a challenge to get back in the swing of things. But not for anything that I can really pinpoint, other than just finding the time, making the time. Um, yeah, and I don't think it's a matter of inspiration. I don't think it's a matter of not liking the story. I was a little bit afraid of that, having spent a little bit of time away from it and more on the outlining part, that I might not be as excited about it, but still excited about it, still in the zone. I just got to get back in that routine again. So, yeah, I don't know, not a lot to report, just chugging along. I started a whole new Scrivener, using your template, which is awesome. I was kind of using my own hybrid model last time, but now using that one you sent over has been cool because it's got all the story elements right in there already with
Oh, great.
all the subheadings and all that stuff. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I wish I had more. I wish I had more concrete things to work on, but um, yeah, I'm really glad we set a more modest goal.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really important. So,
Yeah, last time we talked, a couple things we decided to set a more moderate pace for you
yeah,
because you had been really focusing on cranking out a lot of words, and which there's nothing wrong with if you have time to maintain that. Um, but you're a busy guy with kids and stuff, so we focused a little more on getting you on a pace to get, maybe a half hour to an hour of writing a day rather than trying to carve out, hours at a time to get, 5,000 words down,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So when you say it's going slow, do you mean that you haven't been able to get, or you haven't manage the time to work to write every day?
Yeah,
Or are you saying that you are writing but just in small amounts, so the story is coming slower than it was?
it's both. It's not finding the time, but also, yeah. I mean, it's not flowing out of me like I've noticed before, but I know that that's a rare sort of instance when that happens. But yeah, it's on me to find the time again and make the time again. I got a little or very complacent in the outlining phase because that was less work per day and more of like bigger sessions less often, I guess. So,
Uh,
um, yeah, I just got to adjust my routine again and find that time again. So,
yeah.
um,
So what we're talking about kind of right now is the writer's life,
yeah,
right? Is that we want to make sure that we're getting our work done, and we also want to make sure that we're decent spouses and parents
yes,
and
yes,
employees and
yeah,
managers and all that stuff, right?
yep.
Okay, good. Well, that's a good topic, especially at the point where you are at. So, do you have an idea of how many words you've gotten in since we talked last, which I think was on like September 10th? So
Yeah, it's been
it's been
I'm
almost 3 weeks.
maybe 1,500. So I mean,
Okay.
not a lot, but
Yeah.
I jumped around a little bit. I was really excited about this one scene, so I started kind of working on that, even though it's way far in the future. But I like the idea or the process now of having this sort of more solid outline where I feel like I can jump around or not,
Yeah.
and I'm not
Yeah.
violating the whole balance of the whole thing because
Yeah. That's one nice thing about outlining is that you know pretty well where the story is going, so you don't feel like you have to build it brick by brick,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I can work on a floor that's already that I'm not at yet, and that
Yeah.
feels really cool, and that feels weird and foreign too because it feels like I shouldn't be doing that, but
Yeah, it's cheating to do the work,
yeah, yeah,
right?
but
Yeah. No,
it's
I know exactly what you mean, and, what's funny is, from I realized at some point that what I felt I was doing when I did that kind of thing was that I was betraying my characters,
oh yeah,
because
yeah,
they kinda live inside my head and, my, my weird, uh loyalty and, relationship rules come out.
yeah, yeah,
So, but yeah, and I have to kind of reassert that, "No, I'm the author of this world, damn it,
yeah,
I can do it if I want to."
yeah, like you're talking to your characters like, "No, I'm still working on you, I'm just working on
Right.
a future you," like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
okay.
my wife and I were talking about, we read, John Stanford's novels.
Oh, yeah, love
Yeah,
those.
he's a St. Paul guy and
Yeah,
has been doing it for 20 some years now. Really good books. So Lucas Davenport has been his main ongoing character from the Prey series. And a couple of years ago, Davenport went from being a Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension agent to becoming a U.S. Marshal.
oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, and, my wife and I both said that we thought, "Well, what about the other characters that what are they gonna do?" Like they're
Yeah,
actual people.
yeah,
And you don't think about how attached you get to,
yeah,
characters, and then if you think about it as a writer, it's like these characters are literally created through you,
yeah,
and I always feel a sense of responsibility,
mhm,
right? And that actually is one of the things that a lot of newer writers in particular struggle with is the only reason to have a story is to put the characters through conflict,
yeah,
and that conflict should be as severe as possible
mhm,
to make them grow as characters and tell an interesting story. But oh God, I don't want to hurt them like that.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know? So you kind of we tend to make things easy or easier than they really need to be to make a compelling story.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find myself when I think about what my character's gonna go through, I find myself distancing myself from him and he becomes a little bit less like me, as if I'm saving myself from these future toils,
Right, right.
which are all made up anyway. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, but, and it gets back to that idea that, like, Carl Iglesias says, "Stories teach us how to be human."
yeah,
It's not just, a series of events, right?
hmm,
If we're doing it right and doing it well, the character is stressed into changing,
yeah,
and that naturally activates it's meant to naturally activate the reader's, sympathy. We just often don't consider it from, the author's point of view of
right.
what it
And but it's
requires.
way more believable when it is stressful
Yeah,
from the reader
exactly.
perspective. And if it's, yeah, so that's a good thing to remember, I guess, for myself. Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember who the quote is from, but a writer said that, "Fiction is life with the boring bits taken out."
Oh yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So, every now and then I get on a tangent and start thinking about, "God, you know what? That guy didn't go to the bathroom for that whole 2 weeks that the book went."
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
I was looking.
Irrelevant.
I was thinking about that with my. I was writing this part where my character is entering this garage, and I'm like, "Why is this important? Why does this matter?" And
Mhm.
I found a way, I think, to make it matter. I'm trying to highlight how privileged he is. So instead of just him driving in, all of a sudden he's driving in with this special red carpet that he had custom made that extends out to the driver's side. So when he touches down, his feet don't have to touch the bare concrete, And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that this is adding something. I hope,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
before it was just pulls into the parking garage. Who gives an S? Like let's
Mhm.
go. So yeah,
Yeah, if and that's, advancing the story or deepening the understanding of the character with setting,
yeah,
right? I was doing a panel at, I don't know, some writers conference, and I was moderating the panel, and the panel was about setting in fiction, and I had been reading a Nero Wolfe, book. Can't remember who wrote those, but, from the 30s, 40s,
oh,
50s, and, I pointed out that in this book that I had read just the night before, that, the main character, the narrator, who's really does all the footwork for Nero Wolfe, um, he's describing Nero Wolfe's office and says that there is a table right next to the client's chair that is just high enough to make check writing easy.
nice.
Yeah, so and how much does that say about the character of Nero Wolfe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
How calculated he is and how, unashamed he is of taking people's money.
yeah, yeah,
And it says a lot more about it as well. So, yeah, if
right.
you can tell part of the story with setting, that saves you probably hundreds or thousands of words in exposition.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I didn't even think about that, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's one of those fun things that as you get more practice and more intuitive, you'll find those things, most likely will come more easily to you. And I mean, for me, a lot of times it's like I'll write something and I'll go, God, I never even noticed that, judge somebody by, what kind of condition their front lawn was in, you
oh,
know? But it shows up in a story, I'm like, "Oh, god, I guess I am like that," you know?
yeah.
So, that
So I will not be inviting you over to my house then.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I was just, if it's been cool and rainy here in the Twin Cities lately, which means the grass is growing again, so I've been thinking I gotta get out there and
Yeah,
and start mowing again too.
yeah,
And we had a hot, dry summer, so there was probably a month or more when I didn't mow the lawn.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah, I
just
took I took
went to
well
sleep.
advantage of that. That was awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and, my wife took the dogs around the block last week, and, I guess she got a little video of them being completely freaked out by a remote mower.
What? A
Yeah,
remote
it was
mower?
just like a Roomba for inside, the
No
mower
way.
was yeah, was mowing the lawn.
That's awesome. That's what I need.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So that's pretty funny. Probably could have put, fur and some ears on it and really scared the hell out of the dogs,
Yeah.
but got them chasing it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
so that's the thing now.
that's
You don't even
great.
have to mow the you don't even have to walk behind the mower anymore.
I might have to go to Home Depot after this.
Yeah, look for it.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, AI is, improving everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Are you still using AI for your summaries and stuff, or
yeah, I'm working with that, particularly on the romance stuff, and it again, like I said, I had to go back and redo my outlines,
really?
Yeah, because it just, there wasn't anything wrong with how the stories were going and how it was helping me organize and stuff, um, but it also helped me realize that I was shooting way too far on the overall story, that the
Oh,
story I was trying to tell, uh, was, there's just too much to get it all in a reasonably sized book.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so, but yeah, it's been super helpful. Again, as I've told other writers, it's like if all it if all AI were to do was to get me to make choices, get organized and make choices early, that would be that's already a huge step forward.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it has really forced me um, to make those decisions and plot out my outline. Whereas before, I wasn't necessarily doing that. I was outlining maybe to about sometimes 75, 80%, but that 20, 25% that has been not outlined or unplanned has become a problem for me. So, um,
That's still one of the hardest parts about outlining for me is making decisions. It's
yeah.
making some kind of commitment and being okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like, I just
exactly.
wanna leave everything open-ended and then somehow
Right.
decide in the moment, and
Right, and it's, the lazy part of me still looks at something and goes, "Oh, well, can I do that later?" And then
yeah,
I gotta come back and go, "No," because it's important,
right,
You
right,
need to make these choices now, and again, this isn't for everybody, some people will still prefer to pants or, plants, as they say now, plan and plan a little bit and, uh, pants it a lot, but, it seems to be working for what I'm working on right now.
so I think I could I mean, there's a certain length that I could pants it and be fine, but it's not a novel. It's not I mean, it might even just be a short story, like 10 pages or something, but, I mean, it would
Yeah.
have to be something almost that I could do in one setting. Because if I come back to it later, it's gonna turn into something else or not
Right.
make any sense, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've actually got for the romance series, I have to write a reader magnet, which will be, probably under 10,000 words. And I'm already thinking, Jesus, do I even know how to write a short story anymore?
Yeah,
We're gonna find out,
yeah.
you know. So is there something or anything in particular that you feel is getting in the way of your 30 minutes of writing per day?
Well,
Um,
it's I haven't felt the greatest, mentally, and so that's been I've been having to take some time off and just kinda, like, make some appointments and just figure some stuff out, so
yeah,
I've been kind of not trusting myself and having a little bit of confidence where I'm not I don't know. It's that's been a little tricky, but um yeah, I don't know. It'll get figured out. So
yeah.
um
I think
I
I
think
mentioned
it's
this before. I mentioned this before that when I get sick, like if I get a cold or the flu or whatever, the first symptom for me is my mood
yeah,
changes,
yeah,
and I get I get really um, pessimistic,
Mhm.
so and that's before and so usually, like, I've had anxiety and depression forever, so usually I identify that first as, like, depression or something,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, "Oh, I just gotta ride it out," or whatever, and then it's a week or more before I realize what's actually going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely have those times where I'm just like, "Oh my god, I can't. I just can't today," you know?
Yeah, I have been talking myself off of and around things and just mentally, like, like, my first thought will be something, and then I'll have to kinda walk that back, and that just gets so exhausting, and then it's like I even thinking about writing is like, yeah, I don't know. I gotta get something. I gotta change my meds or something like that. It's just I don't know.
Mhm.
It's all wonky right now. So
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. My psychiatrist and I adjusted my medications this summer, went down in some dosages, and I
yeah.
just wanted to find out if it would be different or work, and did not work.
Oh really?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we went back to my other dosage.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I mentioned this quite a bit in the book, Writing Rabble, The Writing Rabble, which is up there in the corner, and there is a link in the comments, or I mean in the description. Also, I've been working on redoing the Writing Rabble logo a little bit, so maybe I'll get around to finishing that and redoing that logo. Um, yeah, so I mentioned in that book that, my mental health needs maintenance, and other stuff just doesn't get done when that is, ignored, neglected, or just you know, isn't quite right,
Yeah.
you know? And there are of course, there's a lot of things that we can do to help with that. They say that regular exercise at any level really helps. And we have also in Minnesota, we have a long winter. So that can be hard.
Yeah.
And I think often, though, as we judge our insides by other people's outsides.
Hmm.
And I either measure myself against somebody who doesn't have the limitations or extra needs that I do,
Yeah.
who seem to make things work easier for them, you know, or I completely misjudge
Yeah.
how easy or difficult it is for somebody else
Right. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
keep operating.
I live in those extremes too. I think where I'm on one. The pendulum is always.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Yeah, and that's a real bad habit for me and always has been, that I assume that everybody else knows how to do this life thing.
Yeah. Yep.
And, they got the instruction manual and I didn't.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, so, that always create and it also what it does, I think, for me is it those 2 extremes, it makes me be harder on myself,
Oh yeah.
that I'm failing somehow
Hmm.
if I'm not, performing or achieving at the level that someone else is, or at the level that I demand of myself, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that is completely unhelpful.
Yeah, my negative self-talk is so exhausting having to walk that back constantly
Yeah.
where that first thought is like and you're like, "What? Really? No." And then it takes like 10 minutes of like just restructuring that whole thing back into something that makes any sort of sense. It's very tiring. And then at the end of the day it's just like, yeah, I don't like you were saying, I don't have it's hard to get that done or make that time for that when it was like all day arguing with myself about
Yeah.
just dumb stuff. Like,
Right. Yeah. Well, put it on the page, I'm gonna
yeah,
argue with myself. I might as
yeah,
well, make it productive. Yeah, and it's hard to have the energy or the mind space, to sit down alone
hmm, Yeah,
when my mind is not cooperating, it's,
yeah.
but I have noticed too that, for me, at least in the past few years, one thing and wow, this is turning into a writer's life, uh, show episode, and a lot of writers do, if you look on YouTube or podcasts, they talk about their mental health as well. So
Hmm.
I'm definitely not the only one who has the obligation to maintain my mental health as well. But um, what was I about to say? Where where did I leave off?
Something about the last couple of years, or
Yeah, so the past couple few years, I started early on. I think maybe 15, 20 years ago, I learned to stop being so hard on myself
mm,
because that comes and because the evidence is all around me that
right?
that that fighting with myself or getting down on myself for not performing at some level has never changed my behavior. It's never
Yeah,
made it better,
yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
It's like I'm beating myself with the stick.
Hmm.
What how does a joke go? The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Yeah, right.
And I do
Exactly.
that to myself,
Yeah,
and so I started changing that and just simply reminding myself just to be gentle with myself, right?
yeah.
I wouldn't do that necessarily to anybody else, although, but that brings up the next point is that, and I think you've heard me say this, that at some point too, I realized that I'm kind of a judgmental dick sometimes, and, I really had to start looking at that too, again, because everybody else has knows how to do this life thing.
Right.
And I realized that, this whole judgment thing that I was doing to other people and, by extension to myself, was, useless. It's like I'm almost always find out I'm wrong. I
Hmm.
often have to, apologize or otherwise make amends for it.
Yep.
So why not just skip that step entirely?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that takes practice,
Yeah.
and so being gentle with myself and just letting the judging go, that takes practice, and I'm not well, and honestly, doing those things appears to be strictly human behavior
Hmm.
anyway. But I also, as a human being, I have the ability to consciously decide something and then work toward it.
Yeah.
That's what separates us from the animals, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That and opposable thumbs, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, so it's almost like, retraining myself, but it takes repetition, just like
Yeah.
any other skill, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, and then and then I have to sit down and try to write a book about somebody who's judging and, experiencing all kinds of conflict and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so and there was something too about out of, Stephen Pressfield's book, can't remember if it was The War of Art or Do the Work, where he says, "The artist banishes chaos from her life because it prevents her from doing her work."
Mm.
And, at my somewhat advanced age now, I've started to learn that and cause less chaos in my life so that I can actually get my work done.
Oh my God, that is, yeah, that's a revelation right there.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
I always say, well, it's like, "Oh, well, I wanna be peaceful and I wanna be happy, God damn it,"
Hmm.
Um, but, I'm fighting with myself constantly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so and that comes from a few different places too, I think in my experience. Well, that's the way I grew up,
Hmm.
is that somebody was always there to criticize me. And the other thing is that it can be a result of anxiety, I think, too.
Yeah.
Is anxiety for me is like having a second engine running all the time
Hmm.
with its own set of wheels that's always, always trying to push when I'm trying to slow down or, get me going in the wrong direction,
Right.
and it takes some time and practice to work with that, and the right medication. I've been on all kinds of different medications, but the one I'm on now really, really works with minimal side effects.
Really.
Hmm. So, I'm glad I kept trying
Yeah. Well, I
because
was
it's a
I
lot
was seeing
better.
a just a general doctor, and I finally made an
Mm,
appointment with a psychiatrist because I understand the limits of where they can go. So my general doctor, that is, the
mhm.
psychiatrist, I hope will be able to kind of do both. So I'm
Good.
really looking forward to that, just to
Yeah.
because it's just like it just doesn't feel right, and I'm tired of like arguing with myself about what I'm feeling as if I can somehow invalidate my own feelings, or
Right.
what am I going to prove, that I'm
Yeah.
wrong? Like, and where does that get me?
Right.
So it's just exhausting. So
Yeah, what's his name on Seinfeld yell always all the time? "Serenity
yeah,
now!"
exactly. Yeah, just scream it enough and make it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, "I demand serenity, and
yeah,
I'll tear this whole place down if I don't get it."
right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And then, the other thing that I know for myself that if I don't write regularly, I get grouchy no matter what the circumstances.
yeah,
It's like there's something inside me that's constantly pushing against, and it's that, I guess it's creative drive, or, the characters that am naturally loyal to aren't getting expressed, so
well, and for me, it's that pressure of like the feeling unproductive adds its own level or flavor of anxiety, which
yeah.
then just doubles down on the anxiety, and then it's,
Right.
yeah, I don't know, that
Yeah.
becomes a slippery slope too.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a while to work through that. But yeah, it's definitely it's worthwhile, you know.
Yeah,
The a lot of the a lot of my natural instincts are to just abandon it, just like,
yeah,
I don't care anymore, I'm tired
yep,
of dealing with it, but I can tell you that it is worthwhile. It's a worthwhile endeavor that
yeah,
makes things better.
right.
Okay. All right. Well, what else? Anything else you want to talk about, or any
No,
help I can give you?
that was the crux of it, was just
Okay.
all that mental health stuff. So it's actually really really good to talk about this stuff. So appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we can support each other. I've always considered myself a rugged individualist, and that never got me anywhere. So,
No, yeah,
learning to actually reach out and be honest, and well, that was the other thing, is that being honest about it, for me, signaled some kind of weakness or
oh yeah,
danger,
yeah,
and embarrassment. It's like
yeah,
I'm embarrassed for this, and then and I think that's maybe part of a great part of the social media, although it might increase anxiety for a lot of people. It also allows and enables people to talk about that stuff,
yeah,
and then, little by little, person by person, I realize that, I guess I'm. This is not. It's not. Um, it's not weird
no,
or or unusual for somebody to be that way, or to have those extra things. And now I realize that, oh, okay, well, it's just part of being human, I guess.
yeah. It's not uncommon, and every time I open my mouth to talk to somebody about it, they're like, I usually can find some kind of common ground with them, and some sort of
Yeah.
shared experience. So I've
Hmm.
never, but I'm always afraid to talk. And then when I do talk, people are just like, "Oh yeah, I have that too," and it's like, "Oh, okay, I'm not alone then."
Right. But I want to be unique.
Yeah, I want to be unique.
How dare you identify with
Yeah,
me?
don't take this away from me, even though I want to be done with it. But I
Right.
want, yeah, it's yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. People are funny, aren't we?
yeah, we're great. We got this all figured out.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. And anything else about you know, anything about the actual sitting down to write that I might be able to give you some experience or
Yeah,
some
so when you first sit
encouragement.
down and, like, what do you tell yourself? Because when I sit down and my first thought is I need to just start putting words down. And sometimes I just sit and I hover because I don't have this amazing idea. And that can be kind of time consuming, but when I'm able to just like just put anything down and just start going,
Hmm.
I can find it or I can get there. Or just how do you deal with like reminding yourself that not every single line is going to be this quotable gem, you know?
Yeah. Well, there are a few things that have really helped me. Um, One is I think I told you that years ago I took an improv comedy class or a series of them
Hmm.
because I needed to learn to trust my creative instincts.
Oh, okay.
And that was really that helped quite a bit. Um, but outside of that, or other than that, a lot of times I sit down wanting to write a really good book,
Hmm.
right? I want people to spatter the pages with tears or
Yeah.
the screen with
Yeah.
tears when they read it or laugh or whatever. And I can't, I can't do that. It's really hard to write a great book. So in order to get the words down, one thing I do is I say, all right, just 10 minutes. I know I just got to sit down and just tap on the keyboard for 10 minutes. And the other thing is I say, well, I can't write the best book, so just write the worst book ever. I mean, just just put all the sappy and threadbare analogies in there, and
Yeah.
just write the worst book.
Yeah.
Make this the worst book ever. Um, and that has helped a lot. It takes a lot of pressure off.
Okay.
Um, we might have talked about this before, but a few years ago, there was a hashtag on Twitter going around called hashtag in writer hell.
Oh.
And a lot of people were, of course, in writer hell, there's only decaf coffee, right? Which
Oh.
came up about 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Um, and I wrote in there, in writer hell, there are no writers better than me.
Oh. Oh, geez. That's a thinker.
Hmm. There are no I have no writer heroes.
Yeah.
I have nothing to aspire to in writer hell,
Oh my god. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that it takes away, that for me it would be uh it would really, how do I put this? If I didn't have heroes, people who are better writers than me, then it's accomplished.
Yeah, it's
I
done.
wouldn't even write,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I will have already said everything I have to say, and
Yeah.
there there wouldn't be any worthwhile uh, point
Right.
in
The
writing.
bar would already be set and all that's
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's wow.
So there's
That
still
is
writers who I want to be them when I grow up, right?
yeah.
Um, so that helps a lot too. Take the pressure off. That I'm not, eh, you know, I'm not trying to be the best writer for all people.
Yeah.
Um, but that doesn't mean that I can't be a good writer for some people, right?
Yeah.
So so that hopefully helps take off some of the pressure that actually causes more anxiety that feeds on itself and becomes bigger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, just be gentle with yourself. And
Okay.
it's like if I mean, you've got kids, so it's like you don't when they say, "Daddy, I want to do something, but I'm afraid." What you don't say, "Well, what's your problem?" You should be ashamed of yourself. Right? You're like, well,
Yeah.
that's okay. I get it.
Yeah.
It's okay to be afraid. Anytime you do something new, and anytime you approach something that, well, first of all, if it's worth doing badly at first.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and um, so sucking at it, if you're if you don't suck at it at first, it's not worthwhile.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and but also it's like, oh yeah, and it's weird to talk to myself, but I still find myself doing it. Sometimes it's like, yeah, I know you're afraid. It This is just part of the process.
Hmm.
It doesn't fear. Courage isn't lack of fear. It's feeling afraid but doing the thing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that self-talk actually matters. I got one of the things I've realized is that I'm my parent now. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
they're my mom's dead, but my dad's alive and he's not parenting me anymore. It's like
Right.
I'm the one
Yeah.
who has to provide the encouragement and the wisdom and the insight. And if I don't have it, then I need to reach out for it,
Yeah.
you know. So that helps a lot too.
Awesome.
So yeah. So like I said many times, it's like sometimes I have to trick myself into writing. It's like I don't
Yeah.
feel like it, but just 5 minutes. You said you do it, so just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's I'm tapping on the keyboard. I am writing these words because I said I would sit down and write words today, and I don't give a about
Yeah.
anything, and I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, writer's right, and that was the probably the earliest writing advice I got is writers write.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's
There's
it.
no other way around it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know. And the other thing too is that, and I'm kind of learning this now, is that I I am becoming more and more okay with what I used to see as mistakes and deficits in my writing.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like I used to see it as like I used to see. I'm coming to understand that my style is in the mistakes or the shortcomings as much as they is in what I do well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that's weird. It's weird to think that way, but it's very liberating because I need to get my
Oh,
work done.
yeah. Yeah. That sounds very liberating to kind of
Yeah,
right size your expectations and yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. That's a good, yeah, right sized, right proportion. That I'm just who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not James Patterson or Stephen King or even the lowest rated writer in the world. I'm just me.
Hmm.
And the other thing that helps is that the world needs my voice.
Yeah.
So anybody, if I'm trying to be the next um, John Sanford, I am on the wrong course because we already have a John Sanford.
Right. Right.
You know that we don't need another one. So only I can write my books.
Hmm.
And if that's something that I've discerned or chosen, well, then yeah, that's a reasonable path to follow.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, as we've said many times, that if I write 500 words a day in a year, I could, or wasn't it like 200 words a day? Then in a year you have a whole book.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So I think it's lowering the pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know. So I hope that helps, and
Absolutely.
hope you get things reorganized in between
Yeah.
the ears
Yeah.
and
We'll
get
figure
the help
something
you
out.
need.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's a message to everybody else out there. Anybody out in the writing rabble is that if you sense that you're too hard on yourself, uh, that that could mean a lot of different things. So by all means, talk to a counselor and start to figure that out. Because as I've figured those things out, I was told a long time ago that if I didn't deal with the basics, I wasn't going to get anything else accomplished. So
Yeah.
that's really helped a lot. So
Yeah.
okay, any other motivation or insight for today?
I'm
All
tapped
right.
out. I'm full.
Okay, good. So, yeah, so we decided to meet every couple of weeks, to give you more time to get your more words down. And so we've got a couple of weeks before we get together again, unless something comes up in the meantime.
Sounds good.
All right, go to it. All
Right on,
right,
man.
let me close this out here. All right, thanks a lot, Writing Rabble, for joining us today. We talked about how to get the work done. We talked a little bit about mental health and maintaining our wellness. That is super important, and how we're not the only ones out there who struggle with these very human aspects of ourselves. So it's all good. And if you think that you're having more trouble than you need to, or you're feeling some despair or a serious depression or anything like that, by all means, talk to a counselor. It's helped me over the years, and I really want you to be well. And let's just keep living and learning how to be human. So, and if you like please like, comment, and subscribe. I can really use those in order to help grow the channel for other writers. But other than that, until next time, Writing Rabble, butt in chair, words on page. Bye now.